Kanata was the strongest swordsman but was treated like a traitor after he quit his team. To redeem himself, he was forced to train the academy's worst team made up of freaky baddies, but after witnessing his long black sword, they only want to train with his tool all day. Before he met the girls, Lecty, Riko and Misora were deemed the worst fire team in school. They were not only nonchalant, but their academic and practice scores were so horrible that the head of the Sky Wizards Academy named Freon decided they had one last chance of redeeming themselves or risk getting kicked out like the trash they were. Meanwhile, Kanata boarded a bus which took him to a spot in town where he started walking only to collide with Misora, who looked like she was in a hurry. He somehow had her in a sus position, and she even freaked out when she saw her jam-stained bread on his platform. When he got up, she started screaming that a weirdo was attacking her, but she soon noticed that Kanata was already long gone. Later, while washing his jam-stained trousers, Kanata saw Riko admiring herself in the mirror. When she noticed that he was bottomless, she started yelling for someone to come save her from the weirdo, but then he vanished like a toxic dude who finally hit. Some hours later, Kanata was walking out of the bathroom when he saw Lecty standing by the door, and immediately she noticed his package being loosely covered. She lost all composure. After finally managing to get his trousers on again, Kanata met up with one of his former team members named Chloe, who revealed that she got him a good deal with the head of the Sky Wizards Academy. When he arrived at Freon's office, she informed him that he was going to be the instructor in charge of Fireteam 6, which was the worst fire team, in order to mold them into useful fighters. A while later, Lecty, Misora and Riko were in the Fireteam 6 room talking about their experience with a mysterious weirdo they all met that morning, only to be stunned when the weirdo they spoke of walked into the room and introduced himself as their new instructor. Immediately, Misora told the rest of the girls that Kanata was the famous traitor of the academy. They all summoned their weapons to beat him up for the sus encounters they had with him earlier. Some minutes later, Misora asked Kanata how he became their instructor, and he told her not to sweat the details because he wanted to move things forward. However, the angry bird claimed he only took the role because he wanted to do some private OnlyFans techniques with them. Kanata told her to shut up and then read out her details, including the fact that her classroom learning grades were so horrible that she was advised to drop out. However, the dummy tried to defend herself by saying her true abilities couldn't be measured by exams. This made everyone give her the stink eyes since she was obviously dumber than a doorknob, so she hid under the table in embarrassment. Riko wanted to introduce herself, but Kanata cut her off while revealing that while her grades were almost perfect, she was also failing out because she intentionally refused to submit her homeworks. For Lecty, Kanata revealed that her grades were just as trashy as Misora's, adding that she was so inconsistent with her practical exams, but unlike the rest, she started apologizing but ended up banging her barely functioning brain on the table. Before Kanata could begin their lesson, Misora called him a traitor she'd never acknowledge. However, Lecty didn't know what she meant, so she explained how Kanata returned home after soloing a bunch of devil beetles on the battlefield, but suddenly became a shut-in NEET that skipped all his missions, which resulted in his team losing their S-ranked promotion trials. Kanata had to remind them that they were the trash tier team that needed help, and when he asked if Misora wanted to win for once, she announced that she would become a fully fledged Sky Wizard by any means necessary. Kanata told all three of them that they used to call him Kronos, the Black Swordmaster, and he promised them that if they trained under him, they could get strong enough to defeat high-ranking fire teams and contribute greatly in the fight against the devil beetles. Hearing this, the ladies started picturing themselves as S-rank baddies, and Misora agreed to become his student. Riko, who didn't want to do any physical exercise, eventually agreed to join in but warned him that her divine performance could make him fall in love with her. When Kanata asked Lecty if she was in, she started shaking like a faulty printer and said she would be happy to join them. Meanwhile, Chloe and Yuri were having drinks outside, and Chloe told her that Kanata wasn't ready to go out on a real mission before revealing that he's now the instructor of an E-ranked fire team. Yuri was surprised by this, but Chloe said it was okay because she was the one who requested it. However, Yuri started ranting about how selfish Kanata was, and Chloe begged her not to badmouth him so much before bringing up the fact that Kanata was still trying to fulfill his duty as a Sky Wizard by defending the peace of the city. Meanwhile, Kanata flew with the girls to a spot in the sky where Misora asked why he was using a hoverboard to fly instead of magic. Kanata replied that he was used to it, and Misora got annoyed by the fact that he looked down on them so much that he didn't even bother to fly properly. When Misora asked what their training was for the day, Kanata said they'd be playing tag, and the girls were shocked to hear this. Misora pointed out that tag was a game for beginners who newly learnt to fly, and the other girls complained as well, but Kanata cut off their yapping to inform them that they could use their weapons to attack him in full force during the game. He also said that the game would be over if they managed to bring him down, and then he started surfing the sky at high speed. Misora ran in pursuit of him, and after minutes of chasing him, she tried to attack him using moves she learnt from Demon Slayer. Kanata dodged her pathetic attacks using slick moves, and he went to a different part of the sky where Lecty attacked him with her dual swords. He blocked Lecty's attacks easily, and she eventually lost all composure when she got hit with a wave of his Riz. Just then, Riko tried to destroy Kanata using her magic gun, but Kanata dragged Lecty out of the way and blocked the attack using a magic dagger. Afterwards, Kanata complimented Lecty for her refined moves during the battle, and Riko took the opportunity to glaze herself as well. The next day, Kanata and the girls were in the 6 meeting room, and he reminded them that training to become stronger wasn't an easy task. Just then, the wannabe Barbie got up and said she had no intention of joining him. As she walked away, she told them they could do what they wanted, and Misora tried to stop her, but Kanata told her to leave her alone. Kanata then asked if Lecty and Misora were ready for the training, and they both expressed their enthusiasm for it. Some minutes later, Lecty shyly told Kanata that she was done changing, and Kanata responded by ripping open the curtain to reveal her Lecty's cultured maid outfit. She got flustered and asked him not to stare, but Kanata said she looked great in it. However, Lecty said it wasn't the point, and then asked if it was right for them to be wasting their fireteam budget on cheap Walmart cosplay. Kanata said it was important, and then threw a bag at her before telling her that her training for the day was to hand out flyers in that outfit. Some minutes later, some female students were walking by the schoolyard, and Lecty tried to approach them, but she nearly creeped them out with her shivering and stuttering. Just then, some guys walked into the scene, and they instantly got captivated by her maid outfit. The losers wasted no time to start simping for her, and eventually all of her flyers fell out of her hands. When they noticed the flyers on the floor, she handed them some, and they were pleased to see that it had discount coupons for lunch. They thanked her as they walked away, and Lecty was proud of herself for fulfilling her mission. At the same time, Kanata gave Misora her own special assignment, which was to find the weakness of Riko, and when Misora screamed in shock, he explained that everyone had a weakness, including the bootleg Sabrina Carpenter. He said she could have a surprising weakness despite her cool act, and Misora argued that he was crossing a line because of his beef with Riko. He quickly shut her up by holding her mouth, and as they hid in the corner, Riko walked by. When Riko boarded the bus, he let go of her mouth, but she pointed out that his hands were on her plots. He apologized and tried to explain that he didn't realize where his hands were, but that only made her more ticked off because in her mind, he was saying her milk bags were too small to be detected. He ignored her yappings and pushed her forward to start her mission. As Riko walked through the city, Misora watched her from behind a tree, and Riko spotted her through the reflection on a glass wall. Riko then startled her by running behind her, and she initially asked why Misora was tailing her, but eventually assumed that hot-headed oaf was just bored. She told Misora she was going to do some shopping, and when Misora asked to join her, she dragged her cheek and asked why she was suddenly taking interest in her activities. Riko eventually decided to let her tag along, so Misora gleefully ran after her. At the same time, Kanata was chilling at an outdoor restaurant when Lecty came by to hand him the final flyer. When he asked if she was done with the mission, she happily said yes and proceeded to tell him about how she was initially scared but gained some courage after delivering the first couple of flyers. However, Kanata said it was only the first step, and then he told her that the restaurant they were in had been looking for a part-time staff member. He wished her good luck, and as he walked away, she tried to argue that she couldn't do it, but then everyone around started overwhelming her with meal orders. Elsewhere, a four-eyed nerd was studying about devil beetles while walking down the hallway, and he collided with Yuri, causing her drink to spill in the package area of his trousers. She started to wipe him off with her hanky, and the pleasant sensation made Bro's mind wander off into La La Land. At the same time, Riko and Misora were doing some shopping together, and Misora asked Riko why she bought some boring philosophy books. So Riko called her a brat for only reading a lot of brain-rot isekai series. They went to a section of the mall where toys were displayed, and when Riko started cuddling one of the dolls, Misora said she didn't know that the beauty queen liked cute things. Back at the restaurant, Lekti couldn't muster up the words to ask some boys for their order, and the idiots ended up teasing her for it, causing her to run away out of embarrassment. Lloyd saw this happen, and he recognized Misora as a student of Kanata's. Lekti sat alone by a door feeling like a failure, and Misora made a surprise appearance by opening the door behind her. When Misora asked why she was there alone, Lekti started crying. Misora got them some drinks, and after Lekti explained the situation to her, she asked how serving a bunch of lowlives was a mission. When Lekti asked Misora about her special mission, Misora dodged the question and then told her to rely on her if she really needed to. Lekti happily obliged to this offer, and when Misora put on a bunny girl outfit at the restaurant, all the boys in the area started losing their minds. Just then, a student named Lloyd asked Lekti to serve him some water, and when she poured his water, he told her to trust her instructor before pointing out that she had a great friend who was working hard to help her. That evening, the ladies met up with Kanata, and he pointed out that Lekti was using a sword style which was created by her sword master named Albert. Lekti wondered how he knew about her family, and he went further to explain that she only failed during their game of tag because she struggled to look him in the eye. She confessed that she hated herself for being a hopeless introvert, and he comforted her by patting her head while telling her she would soon fix her problem. When he asked Misora about her own mission, Misora said she failed since she couldn't find any weaknesses, but also pointed out that Riko liked philosophy books and cute things, and Kanata said she made progress. The next morning, Kanata told Misora that she'd be switching from a sword to a magic cannon in order to make the best use of her talents, but she said she'd never do it. When he tried to explain some more, she went into tears as she expressed her disappointment in him as an instructor, and then she ran away. Some years ago, a group of sky wizards were scared when they saw a large horde of devil beetles were approaching them, but a powerful sky wizard named Sosie charged ahead and took down a bunch of them using her massive sword. Some devil beetles tried blasting at her, but she dodged and took them out as well. When the devil beetle boss showed up, she dodged all of its attacks before using her Bankai to destroy all the devil beetles in the area at once. Seeing this, the people cheered, and Misora was amazed by the level of power her mother just displayed. Back in the present, Misora stood by her mom's grave, and when she remembered Kanata's words, she said she'd never give up. The next day, Lekti delivered coffee to a room, and as she walked back, she saw Riko walking through the hall, so she ran after her. When she asked Riko to join her in training, the self-proclaimed goddess refused and said she had no time for sweaty training. Lekti brought up the fact that Misora hadn't come to school for the past couple of days, and she said she didn't know what to do alone. However, Riko said she was the wrong person to ask because she felt that she was a heavenly goddess who was far above their silly problems. Meanwhile, the four-eyed nerd from earlier named Nua held on to the hanky he got from Yuri as he rehearsed his thank you speech to Yuri, but then he spotted Yuri meeting up with Kanata nearby. Yuri asked Kanata why he hasn't been training the girls for the past few days, and when he asked how she knew, she said it was easy to find out because the Fire Team 6 hadn't applied to use the training airspace. Kanata then told her he had to go on a home visit, and he thanked her for looking out for his girls, causing her to get flustered as she called him senpai. After watching his crush get rizzed up by a nonchalant king, Nua felt so hopeless that he dropped the hanky and the love letter he wrote for Yuri on the floor. A while later, Kanata arrived at a restaurant where he saw Misora in a maid outfit cleaning the floors, and when she tried to chew him out, her dad told her not to be rude to the guest. She told her dad not to get involved, and Kanata pointed out that the old fart looked too ugly to be her dad, so he told Kanata that she looked like her mom. When Misora left the room, her dad apologized to Kanata for his daughter's behavior and explained that their family relationship wasn't exactly perfect. When Kanata saw a family photo on the wall, he said Misora's mom Sosie looked pretty, and the dad said that photo was all he had left of her. Misora's dad then served Kanata a breakfast steak, and as Kanata ate it, the dad revealed the steak he was eating was Sosie's favorite. He also told Kanata that she was a sky wizard and brought up how his relationship with Misora was so broken that he couldn't yell at her despite the fact that she had been skipping school for the past few days. Kanata then asked the old geezer why Misora was so fixated on the magic cannon sword, and this made him realize that Kanata wasn't a mere acquaintance. Kanata told him that he was Misora's instructor who was tasked with helping her get stronger, and then the old man revealed that his wife was a great magic cannon swordsman in the other floating city they used to live in until she didn't come back from a mission one day. He also revealed that naturals like him lost all memories of her after she passed, and said Misora wanted to pursue the magic cannon sword arts because she didn't want to forget her mother. Some years ago, Sosie tossed little Misora up in the sky and had a romantic time with her husband Gale before Misora landed on top of them. The people of the city started praising her for being their version of Gojo, and she told them that they could always count on her. Afterwards, Sosie served Misora a breakfast steak and caused several destructive accidents around the house due to her overwhelming magic before receiving a call for a mission. When she told Misora and Gale about the mission, Misora tried to stop her, but Gale calmed her down so that Misora could leave. When Sosie came back, she flew around the sky with Misora and told her to remember that she was fighting to protect everyone in the city. Just then, some robo-cops started chasing them, and Misora reminded her mom that she needed permission to fly over the city, but Sosie chose to ignore it as she flew ahead. The next day, Gale and Misora bid Sosie goodbye as she left for a mission. And when it was evening, Misora noticed that her mom was running late, so she went downstairs to ask Gale about her. Gale said they didn't have any mom in their house, and she went around town to ask everyone about her mom, but no one seemed to remember her. She was then informed by some sky wizards that her mom died while protecting them, and as she cried, they handed her Sosie's sword. Misora then boldly claimed that she was going to become a powerful sky wizard like her mother and back in the present. She kept jamming her sword into a rock as she wondered why she couldn't win duels. She fell to the ground and decided that she wouldn't give up because of her mother. Just then, Kanata showed up, and they went to her mom's grave at a resting ground for deceased sky wizards called the Hills of Hope. Kanata brought up the fact that she visited there every day, and in response, she started ranting about how she hated her dad for spilling her secrets. Kanata then told her he asked Gale why she was so fixated on the magic cannon sword, and he asked her to swear to her mother's grave that she'd give up on that weapon. He told her that she'd never be strong using that weapon, and she argued that she wanted to become a great magic cannon swordsman like her mama so that people could recover their memories of Sosie, but Kanata claimed that naturals had never recovered their lost memories before. She said she'd be the first to make it happen, and this made Kanata laugh at her before admitting that he liked people like her. He then said he'd give her a tip on how to become a great magic cannon swordsman because he now knew how strong her resolve was, and he asked her to vow that she'd become a better magic cannon swordsman than her mother. He also asked her to vow that she'd get strong enough to protect her mother and herself. As she swung her sword, Kanata held her hand and said some rizful words to her that made her cheeks red. The next day, Misora met Lekti in the sky, and when Kanata showed up, she thanked him before flying off. Riko, who watched from below, said Kanata was starting to interest her. Some days later, Yuri joined Kanata and Lloyd by the table and praised him for being able to handle the pressure of being the most hated guy in school. Kanata changed the subject by pointing out that the next opponents for his group are Fireteam 5, and Lloyd revealed that they're on the fast track to a D rank promotion. Yuri said that everyone in school believed that there was no way his fire team could win because of how weak they were, and Kanata said it was great because it would make them feel less pressured. Yuri asked if he was trying to say it was alright for his 3 Sakuras to lose, and Kanata replied that he was trying to say they had a better chance at winning than anyone realized. After Yuri and Lloyd left, Riko came by and asked Kanata about the papers on the table. Kanata revealed that they were their next opponents, and when he brought up the fact that Lekti and Misora would soon complete their training, Riko said she had no intention of training with him. Kanata told her to do as she likes, and she said some mean words to him as she left. Some hours later, Misora and Lekti were in the ladies' dressing room helping each other change, and they talked about how their confidence in their ranked match was growing because of Kanata's training. Just then, Kanata knocked on the door and offered to treat them to some ice cream for all their hard work, but Misora declined the offer by saying they had some business to take care of. Lekti tried to change her mind, but Misora told her they had to think about their next match and then promised to get her ice cream later. Some hours later, the both of them met up with Riko, and when Riko asked why they summoned her, Misora bluntly told her that she wanted her to join them in training. Misora also claimed that she didn't want to keep losing anymore and pointed out that they needed to be together in order to make that happen. However, Riko said she wouldn't join them because she had nothing to gain from training. Lecty said it wasn't true because she believed that Kanata would definitely be able to teach her something, and Misora added that she believed that Kanata would be able to make them stronger. Hearing this, Riko remembered when he told her to do as she likes, and she told them that he doesn't try to train her because he knows that she's a goddess. As she was about to leave, Misora stopped her by begging her to at least join them in the match. But the pompous queen said she had no interest in humiliating herself by joining a match she knew she would lose. Out of desperation, Misora went on her knees and tried to beg her, but Kanata made a surprise entrance by dragging her back up into the air. Meanwhile, Freon informed Chloe that a D-rank fire team was attacked the previous night during patrol, and when Chloe asked if a chimera appeared, she said it had. She then explained that they are the commanders of smaller devil beetles and said they can't let the creature anywhere near Mistgun. Chloe assured her that she and the special duty fire team would handle the situation, and then Freon brought up the fact that Kanata's fire team would be having their ranked match soon. Chloe smiled and said she was pleased by the fact that Freon was concerned about 6. At the same time, Kanata dropped Misora on her rear and pointed out that he figured them out because he knew that Misora wouldn't reject a reward unless something was clouding her mind. He held Misora by the head while saying he'd give her the key to victory, and everyone wondered if he was about to give her Sukuna's fingers. The next morning, Riko woke up after another nightmare about her sister, and as she walked to school she saw Nua peeking at Yuri through some bushes using some binoculars. Realizing that he was a stalker, she started bragging about her beauty to him in hopes that he'd start simping for her, but he ran away instead. Meanwhile, Kanata and Misora were high in the sky, and he told her to pay attention to the overpowered move he was about to show her because he intended to cast it only once. He then summoned his dark sword, and she immediately recognized it as a legendary sword called the Gladius. Using the sword, he fired a powerful energy blast which destroyed a cloud, and he revealed that the move he just used was a magic cannon sword battle art named Strike Blaster. He told her it was the move she was going to learn, and she immediately started getting cold feet. Misora held her sword, and he guided her from behind while instructing her to channel her magic energy into her sword. As she did so, he confessed that her sword skills and shooting skills were very amateur, but then claimed that he'd teach her that move without bothering about basics. When she asked if the move was the key to victory, he told her that her most powerful asset was her magic power capacity and claimed that using it in a one-shot move is the only plan they had. She then managed to pull off the shot, but immediately she did so, her sword suddenly started weighing her down. When she regained her balance, Kanata told her he'd be adding it to their regular training and told her she'd only get 3 shots per day. Misora was shocked by the fact that he was showing signs of magic exhaustion after a single shot when he used to be an elite, and he interrupted her brainstorming by pampering her. Afterwards, Kanata had a sparring match with Lecty where they went bar for bar, and afterwards he complimented her for improving. As Riko watched, she got jealous of how Kanata was pampering them, and she started to wonder if training under him was a way for her to finally catch up to her sister. Just then, Kanata appeared behind her and revealed that he knew she had a high-ranking detection skill called clairvoyance, which allowed her to watch them from afar. Riko pointed out that Misora would require strong guards to protect her while using the strike blaster since it took time to charge, and Kanata said Riko's observation skills was exactly what made her one of the keys to the team's victory. When she pointed out that he never tried hard with her, he said it's because he thought she was already far above the other 2 girls, and he rizzed her up until she finally agreed to join them in training. On the day of the ranked match, Kanata's team was about to face off against their opponents, but things went sideways when the announcer revealed that some devil beetles were approaching Mistgun. Freon instructed all fire teams of D rank and above to prepare for a battle, and Kanata was annoyed by the fact that it was happening at the worst possible time. As the devil beetles approached the school, it was announced that an air raid alert had been issued to all of Mistgun, and regular students who were non-combatants were ordered to evacuate to the nearest shelters. When Freon asked for a status report, her associates informed her that some A and B rank combatant groups have already entered the battlefield, and she instructed them to assemble 7 battalions centered on a rank fire teams which they'd assigned to key positions. She then ordered them to send the E-rank fire teams to assist with the evacuations. Elsewhere, Kanata met up with Misora and Riko, who informed him that they'd completed their evacuations, and Riko asked why the former ace was helping out with evacuations when he could be taking down enemies on the front lines. Kanata said it was complicated, and when she asked what he meant, Misora changed the subject by asking about Lecty. Just then, Lecty showed up with a girl who was still in the area, and Misora suggested getting her to the shelter immediately, but Kanata told her to wait as he watched Chloe destroy hundreds of devil beetles using a powerful blast. Yuri came by to compliment Chloe, and Chloe said it was something Yuri could also pull off easily if she used her spear. Yuri reminded her that she doesn't use spears anymore, and Lloyd interrupted their bonding to inform them that a separate detachment of devil beetles had breached Mistgun's defenses. At the same time, some analysts informed Freon that the Devil Beetle Group D, which consisted of over 300 bugs, had entered their city, so she ordered all students, including those on evacuation duty, to prepare for battle. Meanwhile, some devil beetles appeared on the street where Kanata's crew were, and when the little girl started crying, Misora remembered her mom telling her she fought to protect the people of the city. Misora then boldly claimed that she'd protect everyone and summoned her magic cannon sword. She successfully shot one of the devil beetles, and the rest of the team complimented her for it. But then she stunned them by using Strike Blaster to destroy the group of devil beetles that was approaching them. When the smoke cleared, she saw that she caused damage to the town, and the team scolded her for using a powerful move inside the city. As the airhead tried to explain herself, Kanata informed her that her careless blast took out her dad's cafe, and seeing this, she freaked out. At the Mistgun base, an analyst informed Freon that the enemy count was over 10,000, and she realized that they had no chance unless they could strike their commander. Back in the city, Kanata's group returned the lost girl to her mother, and then they sensed a dangerous presence nearby. At the base, it was discovered that a chimera had appeared somewhere in that city, and Freon told them to direct all their attack on the chimera because unaliving it would put an end to the attack. Hearing this, some high-ranking sky wizards attacked the chimera, and they managed to destroy the monster with ease. However, the analysts discovered that there was no change in the enemy's pattern of attack even after the chimera was defeated. Meanwhile, Kanata and the girls were flying in the city, and Kanata told them that there had to be more than one chimera around given the number of enemies attacking. Riko then pointed out that they needed to find the second chimera, and when Misora asked how they'd do that, Riko said she'd give them a glimpse of her observation haki. She put on her glasses and explained that when she activates her clairvoyance, she finds it difficult to focus her eyes, which is why she puts on those ugly glasses. When she used her glasses to scan the area, she discovered that there was an unusually high concentration of smaller beetles in a particular area in town called Block 68. When Kanata and his gang arrived at Block 68, and he informed the ladies that they'd be the ones to take down the chimera, they immediately started to panic, but Kanata calmed them down by saying that they didn't train so hard just to die. He went further to say that they trained hard so that they could protect the people of the city, and he guaranteed them as their instructor that they could pull it off. Hearing this, Misora told the girls that she trusted them, and they replied with some inspiring words which assured Kanata that they were ready. At the base, an analyst informed Freon that the enemies were concentrating at Block 68 and added that all of their forces had their hands full. At the scene, Lecty fulfilled her role in Kanata's plan by taking out a bunch of evil bugs, and when more bugs showed on the sky, Riko started sniping them from afar, allowing Misora to zoom in and blast them with her strike blaster. However, some bugs survived the blast, so she fired another massive blast, which still didn't take out all of them. As Misora started panicking, the rest of the squad took out the bugs that flew in her direction, and Misora finally regained her determination as she fired a massive supercharged beam at the monsters. In a shocking twist, a massive energy beam was fired back at her, and Kanata managed to block the attack before noticing that a unique form of chimera had appeared in the area. The chimera started going wild with its blasts, and Kanata complimented Misora's efforts before summoning his dark blade. As his body overflowed with dark aura, he told Misora to make sure she never fights the way he was about to, and then he charged at the monster at a speed that would put Minato to shame, dodging all the chimera's laser beams before slashing it in the head. Kanata started to feel physically strained by his current form, so he decided to end the battle quickly. Misora started worrying for him, but he destroyed the monster with an overpowered dark blast before falling into the hands of his students. Afterwards, Yuri wondered why the Devil Beetles were leaving the city, so Chloe and Lloyd informed her that her glorious king had defeated their boss. Elsewhere, Nua was rushing to check if Yuri was okay when a weird object fell on the floor close to him and transformed into a dark eye which stared at him. Sometime later, everyone was gathered in the arena for the ranked match, and when Yuri met Kanata in the stands, he told her that she'd be shocked by how strong his team was. However, the opposing fire team handed Kanata's Powerpuff Girls a big fat L, causing Yuri to troll him. Some minutes later, Chloe was walking by the hall with Freon, and Freon told her that there was an upcoming tournament at the academy. Some days later, Misora was up in the air blasting on some balloon version of Devil Beetles, and she called out to Rico to provide cover, but the Airhead Queen was too busy admiring her looks on a mirror. Rico told her to fight by herself, and Misora started to chew her out for it, while Lecty popped some balloon beetles that got close to her. Kanata smiled while watching them from afar. At Freon's office, Freon brought up the fact that Kanata's team was still in the same story spot they were at the start of the session, and Chloe revealed that they were extending their losing streak. Freon then asked to confirm if Chloe's team were the ones responsible for taking down the Mystery Chimera, and Lloyd said they weren't the ones who did it. Freon then said that Kanata was insisting that it was his Fire Team 6 that defeated the Mystery Chimera, and also revealed that he'd asked for them to be spared for the destruction of the civilian property they caused during the attack. When Chloe asked what she did, Freon said she turned him down because they had no evidence or eyewitnesses to back up his claim, and she informed them that she was considering disbanding 6 as punishment for their recklessness. Meanwhile, the Powerpuff baddies somehow got overwhelmed by the balloon beetles, and Kanata decided that it was time to move to the next step in their training. Back at the office, Chloe asked what would happen to Kanata if the group disbanded, and Freon replied that he'd be relieved of duty. Before she could speak anymore, Yuri cut her off by saying she agrees with her and claiming that she didn't think a traitor like Kanata could be a good instructor at all. Freon then asked Chloe to bring Kanata to the office later, and when Lloyd asked if that was the only reason she summoned them, Freon said that the real reason was related to a flyer which she then handed them. A while later, Misora took to the stage at the 6 room as she said it was troublesome that no one would recognize the great fighting they did against the Devil Beetles, and Kanata said it was only natural since no one saw them during the battle. Misora started ranting some more, but Kanata shut her up by holding her mouth, and when Rico asked Kanata if he was satisfied with going unnoticed, the nonchalant king said he didn't care about it. He then showed them a flyer for the upcoming Mist Gun tournament, and the girls were instantly interested in it. A while later, all the other students gathered by the hallway and read the details about the tournament on a banner. All fire teams except S-ranked teams could join the tournament, and the winning team not only gains 2 ranks, but they also get to receive cutting-edge gear made by the Alchemy Division, as well as a year-long free pass to all dining establishments in Mistgun. Kanata's girls started fantasizing about the queen treatment they'd receive if they win the tournament, and when Kanata asked them what they thought about it, they all said they were determined to win it. Just then, Chloe showed up at their meeting room, and she took him to meet Freon, who told him that he was fired. Freon pointed out that he's done nothing but extend their losing streak, and also brought up how the girls were fighting each other during training that day. She then stated that disbanding 6 was the most logical thing to do, but when she claimed that he had nothing to lose from it, he said she was wrong because he still had some work to do. When she asked what he meant, he said he promised to raise the Misfit girls into real sky wizards after signing up to be their instructor, and Freon said she had doubts about his abilities despite the fact that Chloe chose him for the role. However, Kanata said he didn't care about her doubts because the only people he needed to prove himself to were Misora, Rico, and Lecty. Freon then asked what the other fire teams would think, and Kanata said the other teams would have to accept his group if they won the Mist Gun tournament. Hearing this, Freon laughed out loud and then reminded him that his fodder Puff Girls couldn't even beat E-ranked teams, but Kanata still claimed that they could win the tournament. The Airhead trio, who were hiding behind the door, struggled to listen to what they were saying, but they heard Freon say something about disbanding their group if they failed. As they started to freak out, Kanata opened the door, causing them to fall inside. A while later, Kanata told the girls that they had to win the tournament, and when they started to express their doubts, Kanata brought up the fact that rankings from previous matches meant nothing because the tournament would give each group a clean slate. He then told them to be ready for a new training method they'd be having the next day, and he reminded them to attend the tournament matchmaking event the next day. Sometime later, Freon took Chloe's group to a private facility where they saw some scientists operating on devil beetle corpses. They met Nua, who was the head scientist there, and before Freon could introduce the trio to him, he instantly identified them as the Special Duty Fire Team who were at the top of Mistgun Academy. Afterwards, he took them to the sample he found during the battle, and Freon informed the gang that it was a part of the Mystery Chimera, which they now decided to call Chimera Antares. Nua showcased the regenerative abilities of the monster and started yapping about how it could lead to breakthroughs in medicine before Freon told him it was time for them to leave. As they left, Nua brought up an interview Yuri had where she said she was only interested in guys that were stronger than her, and as she walked away, he sniffed her handkerchief like a creep. When they got outside, Freon told Yuri that she wanted her to help her out with something. Meanwhile, the different fire teams were picking out their first round matches, and when it was time for Team 6 to pick, Misora stepped up for the team. She turned the roulette and it landed on another E-rank team, causing them to feel relieved. When they told Kanata about it, Yuri arrived and revealed that she'd been assigned to be the instructor of a fire team. She said that her new squad, Fire Team 2, was on a completely different block as his team in the tournament, and Kanata said it was interesting because they'd face each other in the finals. He then proposed that she join his fire team if they win, and she agreed even though she believed there wasn't a chance it could happen. After she left, Kanata told the girls that he agreed with Freon that their fire team would no longer be disbanded if they won the tournament, and they all got mad over the fact that he didn't tell them sooner. Later that evening, a student got chased around by a mysterious hooded man with dark aura, and when he reached a dead end, the mysterious man put him down. During the Mistgun tournament 3 years ago, Yuri watched as Kanata and the gang went up against an A-rank team, and she felt that Kanata stood no chance of defeating the two A-rankers that chased him. However, Kanata pulled a slick move to dodge them before spamming sword jabs like a JoJo character to take one of them out. The second A-ranker then fired a magic arrow, but Kanata deflected it easily and the loose arrow started flying towards Yuri. Seeing this, Kanata immediately zoomed down to the stands and deflected the arrow again. He asked Yuri if she was okay, and when she said yes, he told her he'd end the battle quickly before zooming in to finish the battle against the other A-rank idiot. Some minutes later, Kanata's group managed to beat the A-rankers, and he flew back down to meet Yuri. He asked if she was a new student, and she replied by thanking him for saving her. He told her not to be so uptight, and then Lloyd interrupted his flirting by telling him they needed to prepare for the next match. As he was about to leave, she said she wanted to thank him properly, so he told her to join his team because they needed people who they could count on. Back in the present, Chloe met up with Lloyd and Yuri in the schoolyard and informed them that the most recent victim wasn't able to see the assassin's face. Chloe then revealed that their fire team was to join the Raven's Nest for patrol duty, and Yuri said they could count on her, but Kanata interrupted them by jumping out of a tree, causing Yuri to blush as she accused him of eavesdropping. Unable to handle the embarrassment, Yuri said she was heading out to see her fire team, and after she walked away, Kanata asked if Yuri requested to take on an E-rank fire team like him when Freon offered her the instructor role. Chloe was surprised that he figured it out, and Kanata explained that it was because Yuri was clumsy but a very honest and responsible person at heart. He added that she wanted to be on equal footing with them by winning in a fair fight. At the same time, the loser trio were doing training and Rico was busy aura farming in the air, while Lecty begged her for some cover and Misora blasted a couple of the balloon monsters while begging Rico to act like a proper middle guard. However, Rico said she wouldn't do anything because the middle guard position hurt her neck, and then she stared at Kanata, who was watching them from above. Misora and Lecty were fighting for their lives against these balloon insects while begging Rico to do something, and the pompous queen finally decided to summon her weapon. Rico told Misora to hold off the enemy group to the left while she and Lecty takes out the monsters on the right, and when Misora complained that the monsters she was assigned were too far away, Rico said it was a special job which only she could handle because Lecty didn't have the skills to do so. Rico asked Misora if she could rely on her, and Misora said yes before charging forward to face them. When Rico told Lecty that they'd be taking on the monsters on the right together, she apologized over the fact that her skills were inadequate. However, Rico said her skills were enough and confessed that she lied to Misora about it just so that she'd comply with her instructions. Riko then told her to clear out the 3 enemies that were flying towards her, and Kanata watched proudly as the girls started to go commando on the monsters. Just then, Yuri showed up with her fire team and Kanata was excited because he knew they stood a high chance of winning the tournament. While in the air, the team leader Lily led her partners Sasha and Greg into battle against the balloon beetles, and the loser trio watched in shock. As they cleared, they worked like a well-oiled machine. After they defeated all the balloon beetles, Yuri told Kanata to be ready for them. And when Misora asked if they could beat Yuri's team, Kanata said the way to beat a superior team was to become a single fighting unit. This somehow rizzed Yuri up when she stared back at him. Much later, Kanata gave Riko a massage as a reward for her hard work during training, and he pointed out that she was a fine woman because of how much she cared for the others. That evening, Kanata was walking through the schoolyard when Yuri showed up and asked to have a word with him instructor to instructor. Kanata said it was perfect timing because he wanted to talk to her as well, and the loser trio who were eavesdropping on them thought they were secretly dating. Kanata and Yuri went to a cafe where Yuri was offered a coffee, and Kanata noticed that Yuri was feeling shy about having the coffee, so he offered to have soda with her. Yuri declined his request and instead added a ridiculous amount of sugar to her coffee before drinking it. Misora and the girls were watching from another table, and Riko informed them that Yuri was refusing to use a spear, which was her favorite weapon for reasons unknown to anyone. Lecty then presumed that it was the reason they were on that date, and Riko said the boyfriend Kanata was trying to console her, causing Misora to have a meltdown. At Kanata's table, he brought up the fact that the monthly mist gun was coming and asked if it was true that she only liked guys that were stronger than her. Yuri said yes, and he teased her by asking if she was into Chloe. Yuri eventually decided to stop horsing around, and she told Kanata to quit his instructor job. She pointed out that he had skills that made him as powerful as Sung Jin Woo and told him to stop wasting time on the loser trio. She then claimed that the girls didn't deserve to be at their school, and Kanata guaranteed her that the girls had potential. Later that evening, Chloe told Freon that all the victims of the assassins were male students who used melee weapons, and when she said it could be a coincidence, Lloyd revealed that the victims were chosen in order of increasing rank. Hearing this, they realized that the next victim would be a B-ranked student. At the same time, a random B-ranker was attacked by the assassin, who then revealed himself to be Nua, and he stated that his goal was to become a man worthy of Yuri's love. The next morning, Lecty met Kanata during a jog and told him that her new roommate Misora's skills don't make her a good vanguard. She also pointed out that she couldn't do much from the rear given the fact that she used a melee weapon. Before she could say more, Kanata patted her head and said she'd been paying attention. He said she was right about Misora not being a good vanguard, but when she asked if he'd cancel the training, he immediately declined. He then asked if she wanted a hint, and before she knew it, she was back in maid clothes serving people at a diner again. When Kanata met the other staff members, they sang praises to him for all the help he gave them while Lecty watched with red cheeks. Kanata snapped Lecty back to reality by telling her that lunchtime was a war zone, and then all of the P-brain students in the building started making their lunch orders. Lecty immediately started serving them, and as she did so, she noticed how smoothly the rest of the waiting staff were working together. When she was about to deliver a beef stew order she got, a waitress told her to settle a new customer instead. On her way to meet the customer, she tripped on the leg of another waitress, and when she apologized, the waitress told her to be more mindful of her surroundings. Taking that advice to heart, she had an easier time doing service duty, and Kanata drank some coffee while yapping about how perfect his plan was. Sometime later, Misora was in the sky fighting against the balloon beetles, and she wondered why her shots were hitting the target. Riko told her to draw her targets closer to herself before shooting, and stated that it was because she was unable to do this that she ended up barbecuing her own house during the devil beetle attack earlier. Misora accused Riko of being comfortable with her middle guard position, and Riko decided to show off by blasting a monster and telling her that it was the 5th monster she was destroying during that training. They continued bickering as they fought together, and Lecty yelled at them to stop fighting, but then she felt something weird in the area. When Kanata asked what was bothering her, she said she didn't know the rear guard was so lonely, causing him to explain that the rear guard was the final line of defense in battle. He also told her that she could feel helpless if she didn't trust her vanguard and middle guard, and she was surprised by how much pressure Riko and Misora were under. She then remembered her time with the waitresses and said she finally understood the point of the lesson about paying attention to her surroundings. She told Misora that she was sure their team could do better thanks to her flight skills and magic power reserves, and then she advised her to keep her motions right and make every shot count. Misora was hyped up by her words, and then she told Riko that the rear guard was a difficult role because it was hard to keep track of everything from afar, and Riko was pleased by her statement. After Lecty's motivating words, Misora's shots landed more accurately, and Riko also took down monsters with ease. When some monsters tried to ambush them, Lecty swooped into action and turned them into pork chops. Afterwards, Kanata complimented Lecty while the other girls watched enviously. The next day, Kanata met up with Chloe and noticed that she had bags under her eyes. She explained that it was because she was missing sleep due to her night patrols, and when he asked if she knew who was responsible for the attacks, she said she only knew that melee weapon users were the targets. She then asked him not to tell anyone, and when he asked if Yuri was also on patrol, she said she only joined patrol during the daytime since she normally gets busy with instructor duty at nights. Kanata thanked her for everything, and then Misora came by to ask him to give them a more advanced form of training instead of all the weird nonsense he'd been putting them through. Kanata refused by saying that going beyond their league wouldn't help them, but she argued that she wouldn't be able to get stronger that way, and he told her that they'd meet in the fireteam room that day instead of the skies. After she left, Chloe told Kanata that he was enjoying his instructor work the same way he enjoyed schooling Yuri. A while later, Kanata took the girls to a messed up room and told them that they'd be living there together until the day of the tournament. He told them that he wanted them to spend as much time as possible together, and when he left, Misora said they needed to get the place cleaned up, but the airhead goddess refused to participate. Elsewhere, Kanata stole Yuri's attention by passing her a snack from McDonald's, and when she asked what he was doing, he said he was only giving her a token of respect as his future opponent in the finals of the tournament. Meanwhile, Freon and Lloyd stared at the battered body of Nua's latest target at the hospital, and they realized that his next target would be an S-ranker. Later that evening, Kanata and Yuri were snacking on a bench, and he asked if she was refusing to use the spear because he was the one who asked her to switch from sword to spear. He then reminded her that the reason he gave her that recommendation was because he noticed she had a bad habit of backing away during sword locks, which was a fatal flaw for a sword fighter. She argued that she'd be fine since she fought well with a sword during their most recent attack, and he told her that she'd be a great sky wizard someday. She asked him why he was trying to help her, and he told her that she was precious to him, but then they were interrupted when Nua came by with a sword to meet Yuri. Yuri summoned her sword and asked Kanata to stay back before charging at Nua. Nua easily evaded her attacks, and he soon knocked her to that ground. When she got back up, he zoomed around her, but she managed to knock away his sword. However, Nua started spamming wind slashes at her, and just when he was about to finish her off, Kanata jumped in to make the save. Nua threw wind attacks at Kanata, but Kanata deflected all of them, and when he switched to sword moves, Kanata easily blocked him before slashing him on the arm. Kanata lectured him about sky wizards, and when Nua noticed that his body started tweaking, he ran away. Yuri tried to chase him, but he knocked her out with a punch to the gut. When Nua arrived at his hideout, he started ranting about how Kanata got in his way again, and the Chimera I told him to use it. Meanwhile, Kanata carried an injured Yuri to the home of the Airhead Trio, and they immediately got mad at him for it. A while later, the girls were complaining to Kanata about the fact that he brought his maiden to their apartment, and when Yuri woke up, she immediately jumped up while asking where the assassin was. Misora and the girls immediately rushed to cover Kanata's eyes, and this made Yuri realize that she was wearing nothing but her birthday suit, causing her to freak out. She immediately brought out a gun and threatened to blow Kanata's Smurf-sized brain away. Kanata asked how she got a magic gun, and Riko said she was keeping one around because she felt it was a necessary tool for baddies to protect themselves from creeps like him. Kanata then took the gun from Yuri's hand and told her that it was the girls who removed her armor and not him. She then asked if he saw anything, and he laughed in response, causing her to start crying. Seeing this, Kanata jumped out of the window, and then the girls thanked Yuri for saving them from the Phantom Soldier earlier on. Lecty then offered her some clothes, and after she put them on, she apologized for intruding on them before asking if they all lived together. Lecty told her that it was Kanata's instruction, and when Misora brought up the fact that Riko didn't help out with the cleaning, Riko started yapping about how she was a goddess again. The girls started bickering again, and Yuri laughed before revealing that Kanata used to make her do unreasonable things as well when he trained her. When they asked for specifics, Yuri got flustered, and when Kanata came back, he gave Yuri a good luck charm he got from a good store. Yuri asked why he gave it to her, and Kanata said it was because he cared for her. With cheeks redder than a tomato, she told him she hated when he said risful things like that with a straight face, and he told her she could remember what he taught her by looking at the charm whenever she gets in a pinch. When Misora asked how living together would make their team stronger, he started parting her on the head, and this gave Yuri flashbacks of the fun they used to have together when they were a team. As Yuri walked away, Kanata asked if she was okay, and she assured him that he was before telling their team that her fire team would destroy theirs if they somehow make it to the finals. Afterwards, Misora and Lecty were panicking over the fact that their fire team would get disbanded if they lost, and Riko interrupted them by bringing up the fact that she was hungry. Lecty started cooking up a meal, and when she was done, the girls were surprised by the fact that they had a Gordon Ramsay-level chef in their house. Misora said she'd like her to cook for her again when they returned to their original apartment, and Riko teased her by calling her a pathetic freeloader. Misora brought to the fact that Riko didn't help out at all, and the pompous airhead added a mystery sauce to her food which she claimed was a secret ingredient that would make the dish taste better. Misora accused her of using poison, but when Lecty tried out the food, she said it was delicious, and Misora confirmed that it tasted good after giving it a try herself. When Misora asked how Lecty could trust her enough to put a weird mixture in her mouth, Lecty said she trusted Riko not to do anything inappropriate despite her weird character. As they laughed together, Misora started to question if she was the useless one in the group. The next morning, the airhead trio did some practice together, and Misora failed at taking care of the balloon beetles around her. She also failed at helping out in the kitchen during dinner, and Riko personally explained to her the proper way of attacking using their new formation. On the day of the tournament, the fire teams gathered at the arena, and Freon gave the opening speech. Afterwards, Kanata took the girls outside and told them to rest well before their first match, which would take place the next day. That evening, Misora was studying their battle tactics when Riko showed up and told her to get some rest. Misora started arguing, and they were interrupted by Lecty, who informed them that their generator engine was broken. When they arrived at the chamber, Misora easily fixed the engine by using her magic as a new power source, but then the engine started overheating again. Some minutes later, the girls had a bath together, and Misora started ranting about how she didn't care if they lost because they already passed the test. She then ran out of that room and started crying because of the terrible words she told them. The next day, Kanata noticed that the stands were empty because no one cared about a match between E-rankers, and when he asked Misora if she enjoyed living together with her partners, she started whining about how useless she was compared to them. Kanata said some motivating words to her before sending her to join the others. When the match began, Misora immediately fired a strike blaster, but her opponents dodged, and one of them named Sela started blasting at her. The opponents used a combo move to send her flying before Riko and Lecty caught her. As Riko and Lecty fought off against the opponents, Misora started to feel useless, but then she remembered the words of Kanata from earlier. Riko and Lecty clashed intensely against their three opponents, and Misora was shocked by how coordinated they were. She remembered them saying they trusted each other several times during their training, and she realized that she needed to trust them. Misora then fired her biggest strike blaster yet at their opponents, and Kanata said she passed his test. The enemy team was Code and Fire Team 6 were declared the winners of the match, causing them to celebrate together. Meanwhile, Nua declared that he'd soon claim Yuri for himself before injecting himself with a mysterious substance that made him lose his mind even more. In their second match, Misora and the girls easily defeated their opponents, and they eventually beat a C-rank team which booked them a spot in the semifinals. Their biggest hater, Freon, thought it was just a lucky streak as she watched them, but then the girls easily breezed through their semi-final match by defeating a B-rank team. Seeing this, Freon was about to blow a gasket, and the girls celebrated with tears in their eyes, while Kanata prepared himself for the next face-off, which was against Yuri's fire team. Some hours later, the school monthly magazine was released, and some students who read it were shocked when they saw the news that 6 would be disbanded if they flunked the finals. That evening, Chloe and Lloyd were patrolling together in a dark alley, and Chloe pointed out that Freon exposed their agreement as a way of putting Kanata in a position where he wouldn't be able to make excuses if he loses. Lloyd agreed and said it applied to Freon as well. Meanwhile, Lecty was walking through the school hallway, and when she remembered everything she went through with Kanata, she realized that he'd helped her change a little. She decided that she'd win the finals the next day no matter what. At the same time, Riko walked to the spot where she met Kanata, and after she remembered everything she went through with him, she admitted that he'd done a great job at training them so far. In the dressing room, Misora stared at her outfit while thinking about how she used to be nothing but a silly angry bird, and she remembered all her experiences with Kanata, which made her realize that he'd brought her closer to her dream of becoming a sky wizard like her mom. She went out to the track, and Lecty surprisingly joined her there. Riko showed up as well, and the girls decided to wrap up their training together while Kanata listened to them from the outside. The next day, Lloyd informed Chloe that he didn't spot any mysterious people in the section he was monitoring, and Chloe said her area was all clear as well. When the finale began, Kanata walked out to the arena with the girls, and the jam-packed crowd as well as the live cameras made the girls feel like they were at a World Cup final. Lecty started panicking, but Kanata calmed her down, and they noticed that the crowd were hating on them. When Yuri's team, Fireteam 2, arrived, the crowd went crazy, and the girls started to feel isolated until they noticed that the first team they clapped had started a mini fan club for them in the stands. The girls were pleased to see this, and when Misora saw Kanata putting Lecty's head, she felt jealous. When the match began, the leader of Fireteam 2 named Lily told her teammates to take their positions, and once they assumed their formation, they started blasting at Misora and the others. Misora dodged their blasts, and Lecty clashed swords with a swordswoman on Yuri's team named Sasha. Sasha's teammate Greg attempted to cover Sasha by firing some arrows at Lecty, but Lecty deflected the arrows, causing an explosion which momentarily blocked her vision. Sasha tried to capitalize by landing the final blow, but Riko stopped her by shooting her sword. Outside the arena, Chloe was complaining about the fact that she wasn't watching the match. But then Lloyd told her to check the back gate for any intruders. In the arena, Lily chased Misora down, and Misora dodged all of her shots while teasing her. They eventually got to a spot where Riko fired a blast directly at Lily, and Lily managed to dodge, but this created an opportunity for Misora to charge at her. However, Lily threw a curveball by manifesting a blade from her gun, which slightly injured Misora as she tried to evade it. Lily then revealed that Yuri predicted everything that's happened so far, and on the stands, Yuri told Kanata that she was looking forward to crushing his plans. She then ordered her team to finish off their opponents, and her team overwhelmed Team 6 until Misora flew way up into the sky and prepared her magic cannon sword for another strike blaster. Yuri started bragging about how Lily could dodge the striker blaster and close the distance easily, and Yuri charged at Misora. Kanata said she made a fatal mistake. When Yuri looked back, she noticed that she was in a straight line with her teammates, and they feared that Misora would take them all out using a strike blaster, but instead she attempted to slash Lily. Lily got angered by Misora's trickery and charged at her, while Kanata told Yuri that the match had gone exactly how he planned it. He then told her that Misora had become the hunter, while Lily was a raging beast, and Lily chased Misora around the arena until they reached a spot in the sky where Lily noticed that she was in a line with her partners again. She thought it was another feint, so she summoned her blade, but Misora blasted her with the strike blaster, and this sealed the win for 6. The crowd was stunned, and just when the announcer was about to announce the winners, Nua took over the mic and said that Yuri was beautiful even in despair. Just then, the alarm started going off, and it was announced that an air raid alert had been issued at Mistgun, which meant that all non-combatants had to evacuate to the nearest shelter. Chloe and Lloyd realized that it was a false alarm being triggered by the intruder, and soon, Nua appeared at the arena. He started acting like a lunatic as he descended, and Misora noticed that the power he had was similar to the one Kanata used in defeating the Chimera. Yuri recognized him, and he tried to grab hold of her, but Kanata stopped him and kicked him into the stands. Kanata tried to run away with Yuri, but he intercepted them, and Kanata told Yuri to run away while he faced the madman. Nua launched some debris at Kanata, and he tried to dodge, but a piece of iron injured him in the leg. Nua then appeared in front of Yuri, and she tried to take him down with her sword, but he shattered that blade with his bare hand. When he tried to pounce on her, He got blasted to the ground by Misora, who was surprised that her strike blaster didn't unalive him. Kanata asked the girls why they joined the fight, and Misora replied that it was because she didn't want him to fight alone. However, Kanata said there was no need because he had friends who would help him, and just then, Lloyd and Chloe fired a rain of blasts at Nua. Nua noticed that his hand was blasted off, and Kanata offered him a chance to give up, but he regrew his hand and transformed into a blue version of Venom. Lloyd and Chloe noticed that Nua's monster skin was very similar to the body of devil beetles, and then he created a dark tornado around himself and Yuri that deflected all the attacks they shot at him. When Nua grabbed Yuri, Kanata and his girls moved in to make the save, but he sent the girls flying with a wind attack, and this only angered Kanata to the point where he activated his dark aura again, causing his injured leg to heal itself as he stood up. He told Nua to stop lashing out at his favorite students, and then he summoned his dark sword, which he used in firing a dark blast at him. Nua tried to deflect the blast, but it cut off his axe hand and left a mark on his face. Nua complimented him and regenerated his severed limb before charging at Kanata. Kanata intercepted his attack with a heavy hit of his own, and this made Nua realize that Kanata was using devil beetle powers as well. Kanata said he felt pity for Nua because of the whispers that took him in, and Nua was surprised by the fact that Kanata chose to oppose the dark forces rather than join them. Nua claimed that the public would go wild if they find out that someone on the special duty fire team was blessed with dark powers, and Kanata told him to shut up before clashing with him again. Nua then grabbed Kanata's arms and crushed them until he let go of his sword. When he tried to finish Kanata off with his blade, Lecty showed up and cut Kanata loose, allowing Rico to blast off the arm he was using to hold Yuri. When Nua started to regenerate, Kanata told Yuri to back away from him. As they started flying away, Nua blasted his tentacle blade at Yuri, but before it could make impact with her, Kanata showed up and took the hit. As Kanata fell to the ground, Nua started celebrating while Yuri called out to him with tears in her eyes. Kanata told Yuri to escape, and Nua moved to finish him off, causing Yuri to tremble in fear, but Misora and the girls assured her that they'd save him. Hearing this, Yuri remembered some inspiring words which Kanata told her earlier, and that motivated her not to give up. When Nua attempted to separate Kanata's head from his shoulders, Misora and Rico stopped him with blasts, so he charged at them with full intention of reducing them to pizza slices, but Lecty blocked his path. When he sent his tentacle blade at Lecty, Rico deflected it with a blast, allowing Lecty to advance, and she then gave Misora the signal to fire several blasts at Nua. Misora's blasts created a smoke screen which allowed Lecty to attack Nua, but she was stunned to see that her blade broke on impact with the monster's skin. Noticing this, Misora and Rico provided her cover, and after she leapt away from Nico, he smiled at them in a terrifying way. On the ground, Kanata felt that it was good that Nua was seeing them as weak opponents because it would make him more reckless with his attacks. Just then, Nua developed some wings and flew into the air, where he noticed that Yuri was no longer within his sights. He asked them to provide the location of Yuri in exchange for their lives, but then Yuri showed up in her combat gear with her spear in hand. Nua was excited to see her, but she wasted no time before plunging her spear into him. He noticed that his body was falling apart from within, and she explained that her spear was named Trishula, which is equipped with a high-frequency oscillation mechanism that cuts matter apart at a molecular level. She claimed that it was designed mainly to deal with chimera threats, and then Nua fell to the ground as his monster body disintegrated. On the ground, Yuri pointed her blade at Nua while telling him to give up, but the pathetic idiot charged at Kanata instead, forcing her to throw her spear at him. When he got close to Kanata, Kanata told him he'd been dancing in the palm of his hand, and Nua finally went down for good. Afterwards, Kanata complimented Yuri's skills and assured them that his injury was nothing serious. When he saw Freon coming by, he ran off with his students to avoid taking the credit for the battle against Nua. Sometime later, Kanata informed the girls that Freon decided to free them, or their private property destruction charges, instead of giving them the 2-rank boost that they were promised for winning the tournament. When they asked about the cool weapons they were promised as prizes, he showed them some scraps and explained that the weapons were destroyed in the explosion during their battle with Nua. He then introduced Yuri to them as a new member of Fireteam 6, and they all played around together. Some days later, the ladies of Fireteam 6 flew out to a mission together, while Kanata smiled at them from afar. Now that Yuri has joined Kanata's group, What do you think the battle formation in bed is going to be? Do you think he'd take all 4 of them at once, or one at a time? Let us know in the comments. That's all for today's video. If you like anime recaps like this, check out this video here.